in Star Wars. It's a trap! This is a trap. This is a trap. At a time when we spent trillions of dollars already to combat a deadly pandemic, at a time when we're seeing rising inflation across the country, we can't responsibly be spending yet another $1 trillion. This bill is part of a much broader problem we're having with reckless federal spending. Furthermore, suppose this so-called bipartisan $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill was being offered in exchange for the Democrats' massive $3.5 trillion reckless tax and spend bill. In that case, I could understand the logic of doing the smaller bill instead of the massive bill. But it's not being offered in exchange. The Democrats have made it clear that they're going to pass this infrastructure bill, take every penny of the spending, and then turn around and try to ram through their massive $3.5 trillion tax and spend bill right on top of this. Which means we're looking at about $5 trillion of spending in just those two bills. That means trillions of dollars in new taxes. If you pay taxes, they're going up. It means corporate taxes are going up. It means individual taxes are going up. It means small business taxes are going up. It means capital gains taxes are going up. It means the death tax is going up. All while our debt is going through the roof and inflation is rising across the country. Republicans shouldn't play a part in this. We should instead say enough is enough. Look, the American people want good roads and good bridges. I want good roads and good bridges. But what this bill does reminds me of the old swindler who says over and over again, I'm going to sell you a bridge. I'm going to sell you the Brooklyn Bridge. Because the proponents of this bill are selling the same bridge over and over and over again. They go on TV, they say bridges are popular, roads are popular. You want roads and bridges, therefore we got to do this. So let's see what the actual spending looks like to understand the shell game that's being paid. This bill has about $100 billion for roads and bridges. You know what? If the Democrats want to pass just that, $100 billion for roads and bridges, I bet you we could get 90 senators to agree with that. We could be done and go home this evening. And let me remind my fellow senators, $100 billion? It's a lot of money. We aren't talking about $5 in a soda machine in the hall. We aren't talking about $100. We're talking $100 billion, which in history is massive spending. But compare that to the $1.2 trillion in this bill. It's not monopoly money. It's not make-believe money. It's taxpayer dollars, and it's money we're borrowing from China and debt that we're putting on our kids and grandkids. And the roads and bridges part of this bill, in the context of the larger spending free-for-all in Washington, is about 1/86th the explosive spending going on. Let's compare that to the overall spending going on in this bill and the total spending so that it's not in a silo or a vacuum. It's all together. The $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill today is roughly 12 times the new spending on roads and bridges. So they're selling the roads and bridges, but the bill's 12 times bigger. But that ain't it. A few months ago, the Democrats ran through a massive so-called COVID relief bill. Only 9% of the bill actually went to health care spending for COVID. That was $1.9 trillion. So that was roughly 19 times larger than what's being spent on roads and bridges. Mind you, we keep being told roads and bridges are good. That bill was 19 times that. And then the massive $3.5 trillion tax and spend bill that is coming right after this, that the Democrats intend to ram through, that is 35 times the spending on roads and bridges. And when you add up the spending from December 2020 to now, with the Biden budget request, with the Democrats' tax and spend reconciliation proposal, with this infrastructure bill, with the so-called COVID relief bill, and with the emergency spending in December, you hit a whopping $9.5 trillion. That is 86 times the new spending on roads and bridges. You know, that's hard to wrap your mind around. These numbers all seem abstract, millions, billions, trillions. It's hard to know what you're talking about. So let's see if we can make it a little more real. To understand the comparative size, let's take a look at the average American home right here. Average American home is about 20 feet tall. Compare that to a giant sequoia tree. It's about 240 feet tall, 10 times as much. That's a lot. But compare that to Big Ben, 380 feet tall. Compare that to Trump Tower in New York City at 700 feet tall. Compare that to One Shell Plaza, where I used to work in Houston, Texas. Or compare that to the Sears Tower, now called the Willis Tower. I don't know why. I liked Sears. Compare that to the Sears Tower at 1,400 feet tall. The Sears Tower is 70 times as tall as the average American house. The Democrats' reckless spending is more than 70 times what's being spent on roads and bridges. So when you see politicians going on TV saying, isn't it going to be great to have a new freeway? Isn't it going to be great to repair a bridge? Yes, we should do that. They're selling this. That's what they're selling, this tiny little bit. But understand that what they're ramming through is this. They're ramming through trillions of dollars. To give you a sense of what $9.5 trillion means, if the Democrats get their way, Congress will be spending $28,563 for every single American. So I ask you at home, you got 28 grand sitting around? The Democrats think you do. They want to spend it. I've said more than once, dear God, please let nobody tell the Democrats what comes after $1 trillion. These numbers are real. To put that in perspective, indexed for inflation, the United States government spent $4.1 trillion to win World War II. $4.1 trillion to win World War II. The greatest generation, scaling the cliffs of Normandy, beating the Nazis. The Democrats, in 7 months, are spending more than double what we spent to win World War II. This is reckless, and it's unprecedented. As Admiral Akbar said in Star Wars, it's a trap! This is a trap. This is a trap. Now listen, for Democrats, it's what they campaign on. If you're a Democrat, you want to raise taxes and raise spending. You want more debt from China. That's what Democrats do. But for Republicans, come on, guys.